Our next speaker is Ulrich Bongartz from Germany. He's been a bridge teacher for over 30 years and is author of 2 bridge books. And his talk about mistakes at the bridge table, I'm sure, is going to resonate with all of us. So over to you, Ulrich.
Okay, hello. I hope my screen is visible.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Screen 2.
And then you have to do the little share thing again. Click share.
Okay, now do you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. Hello, my name is Ulrich Bongartz. As I said, I've been playing bridge for 50 years and I've been teaching bridge for 30 years. I have the honor and the pleasure to speak here about the error. Some of my partners would say that I'm virtually predestined for this topic, the expert in doing something wrong. So here I am in praise of the error. Why it is important to make mistakes. In the first part of the presentation, I want to talk in general terms about the error and how it is usually seen, but also about what often overlooked opportunities lie within it. In the second part, I then discuss the resulting consequences for teaching. My thesis, which I would like to prove here, is mistakes are good, important and helpful in the learning and teaching process. And if this thesis is correct, we must consider how this influences our teaching or ask ourselves if this is appreciated in our teaching so far. So let's get into it. I have 2 questions for you. How do you feel when you commit a mistake? How do you feel when you are in error? The usual answers I get are, I feel bad, I feel ashamed, embarrassed, angry, something like that. All these emotions and descriptions obviously have negative association. But the answer is wrong because they do not describe the feeling we experienced when we made the mistake, but when we were caught out, or confronted. On the contrary, or one or the other mistake we made may have been accompanied by a positive feeling, at least at that moment. It's a bit like the cartoon figure Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner. In the heat of the moment, he runs over the cliff and stands in midair. Everything is fine until he realizes his mistake, looks down, and suddenly gravity grabs a hold of him. And then the negative feeling occurs. I call this the oops moment. We have no feeling of committing a mistake. There's only this oops moment when we realize we butchered this one again. It is human nature to seek positive experiences and avoid negative feeling. To avoid the feeling of being caught, a popular strategy would be to do nothing, to play dead, because who does nothing makes no mistakes. In this state of paralysis, of course, we make fewer mistakes, except for a crucial one, since immobility also means that we cannot improve. Paralyzed novices cannot learn anything. I think that the bad reputation of the error is founded in the school days. In addition to the normal curriculum in school, there is also a side curriculum that is taught between the lines. They say there is a right and a wrong, and it can be clearly distinguished. This is certainly true in mathematics, but difficult in other subjects. They tell us there are knowers who can decide this correctly, easy to recognize in school in the person of a teacher, but difficult in real life. They tell us there is a two-valued logic. Something is either right or either wrong. Many difficult questions cannot be answered with yes or no, and the answer could also be different in different people in different situations. Some conflicts are inherently unsolvable. Making something wrong is usually associated with disadvantages. An exam is not passed, the student is not transferred or receives a lower grade. Quality work is not paid. In the social context, punishment can also mean exclusion or isolation. I have not behaved properly in my dealings with other peoples, now they shun me. But this is an evil and I think wrong lesson. It oversimplifies the problem and gives the error a bad name it doesn't deserve. It keeps students from making a try. This discourages students from making any attempt at all. The consequences are lazy, stupid, and uninformed people make mistakes, all of which we are not and we don't want to be. So we don't want to be wrong. We want to be right. We are told and we learn that to master life means that we must not make mistakes. That ignores the fact that we had to make many mistakes, which we have reflected upon in order not to make them again right now. I think a better idea is try to make every mistake in life only exactly once. We want to be right, and we like that feeling, but it's self-affirming and mostly it is not real. We believe we are right and that our beliefs accurately reflect the world because there's no contradiction, or the error in our thinking is not recognizable for ourselves. Maybe we do not have enough knowledge to understand why we are wrong. It is a tragical, funny fact that it is the ignorant who hold their wisdom with the greatest personal conviction, while the knowledgeable live in constant doubt. A nice example was the millions and millions of virologists in Germany during the corona crisis. Their ideas were not hindered by troublesome facts or expertise. They all knew better than the few studied experts who had merely devoted their lives to the problem. The God complex is a popular psychological term for the unshakable self-perception of a person who believes that he or she is godlike or acts godlike because of personal abilities, privileges, or his or her infallibility. The error could do a good job here. Recognizing one's own mistake might remind us that we are mortal after all. But how do we develop skills? Let's meet my little daughter, Edda. She's like other children. She is a true expert in developing skills. Here we see how she solves, or almost solves, the equilibrium problem. Children learn to walk by trying and failing repeatedly. Imitate, get up, fall, try again, and fail again with delight. They are not in the least discouraged by a mistake. They are fearless in their quest. And in the end, they master walking, running, climbing, language, find one's way in society, etc. The error gives us feedback about our actual level of knowledge, a hint how to improve. It is no reason to stop the learning process. Learning and recognition is a process of trial and error, failure, improvement, and success. Even science in its search for truth goes through this process of thesis and refutation. This is not my mother language. Sometimes systems are too complex to be solved by a closed formula. And there is no solution at all, but experimentation. An experiment. A defined setting is changed in a controlled way and the failures are analyzed. This is trial and error. From this point of view, intellectual progress is evolution, and this evolution actually loves small mistakes, as does biological evolution. A small change might produce an individual that is slightly more fit than the previous specimens to survive, or it is not. The good, successful variations are adopted, and the not so successful are discarded. They die out. That is, the individual sacrifices itself for the population. This could be applied to teaching, without the mortality, of course. The error committed by another poor individual need not to be repeated by me, because I could learn from his or her example. The error shows us the way to the solution and warns us against going astray. Mistakes, failures, errors are part of the learning process. They are not good at or bad. They are part of the process. The art is to make the best of them. If we can agree, and I hope so, that mistakes contain positive aspects, we should try to make them useful for our teaching. The first and most important consequence for me is create a safe space. Create a safe space for students where mistakes can easily be made. A safe space where mistakes are allowed to be made without the negative consequences. A safe space where you can try, fail, and succeed. This is a difficult task because it's likely to be at odds with the student's usual experience. How can this be accomplished? Judging an error is good. Judging a person is bad. Never judge a person, always judge a way of playing or bidding. Noticing and correcting a mistake is part of my job, but process the mistake without hurting, humiliating the student. In the role distribution teacher-student, there is, of course, a knowledge difference, which we perceive as a gradient. This is okay, since it is part of a contract. You know more, so please teach me. But by the same token, a student must never criticize another student, as that breaks the contract. Even if the criticism was well-intentioned, the criticized student will experience a disparity within his group. I am the worst student, and will naturally find this unpleasant. But we want our students to feel comfortable. In German, we say, Ratschläge sind auch Schläge. I may translate this with, hints are still a push, a kick, a shove. They are nicely meant, but they can hurt sometimes. Remind the student that it's my job to correct other students, and that my life becomes meaningless when a student takes on my task. I'm going to die poor because I have no job at all. The social role is determined by their counterpart. Stand behind the one who made the mistake. This is not a technique, but an attitude. It's not about a linguistic technique, but you should also gain for yourself the conviction that mistakes are good. When mistakes are made, it helps my teaching. I reward the fact that a mistake was made. You want to create an atmosphere in the classroom where the students are encouraged to guess and to make a mistake. You don't want to create a situation where the students are afraid to make a mistake. Remember the play dead problem. Celebrate the identified mistake as a win-win situation. Hooray, we found this bug. So we are one step closer to perfection. Imagine a computer programmer who finally, after hours of searching, found the bug in his code, and now her software is running properly. I bet she is really, really happy. I call the lesson to be learned from a mistake a Lerngeschenk in German, which is probably best translated with a learning gift, a learning present. I deliberately call this a learning gift to counteract the negative connotation of mistake with the positive meaning of a gift. Encourage your students to guess and try so that they can also experience the consequences. Sometimes the student wants you to tell him the answer right away. You should not be too quick to comply with this request. I'm a little bit stingy with my help. The usual agreement is you have to make a decision on your bid and play. Thereafter, I will comment on it. I am not mean, but to let them take a risk has a lot of benefits. If the student solved the problem correct, it is her own victory, achieved without any help. Very good for his or her self-confidence, very good for the next guess. If he's not right, we all won, because now I can explain and we all gain knowledge. In any case, the student's solution, the students taking a risk, advanced our learning process. Don't save your student, let them experience the negative consequences of an error, but in a protected environment. Finally, a bridge hand. This is illustrating the problem of entries. You have to play 3 note trumps, and as you can see, to solve this problem, you have to use the east hand, and the only way to the east hand is via the clubs. Let your student fail by cashing ace king of clubs and realizing then, oops, there is no entry to the east hand outside of clubs, and the learning gifts are there. The necessity of entries, probable distributions, make a plan. This is a good error, because if you fail to duck the first club in both hands, you will fail with the contract. You can never prevail. There are bad errors and there are good errors. A good error shows us that our plan was not good enough, but sometimes a worse plan in real life leads to success anyway, luckily. In that case, you, as a teacher, have a difficult problem. You must argue against success, never easy. To avoid this, create your example hands in such a way that a mistake necessarily leads to failure and only correct playing leads to success. It is not easy to construct such pure hands. If necessary, explain the difference between successful play, successful or lucky play, and correct play. Errors can be used as differential diagnostic tools. The error shows us what still needs to be explained and to whom, and what level of knowledge our student has. Take, for example, this hand. You showed that after a semi-forcing opening, partner uses a puppet of 2 diamonds. So the opener has a chance to show his hand. Everything is fine, and suddenly during the lesson, South bids, and the partner again bids diamonds. Truly an error. So you see that some explanation is called for. But don't forget, if one student made this mistake, correct the mistake. If all students still make the mistakes after my lesson, maybe I should think about my teaching. An example hand gives us a lot of opportunities to go wrong. Players are very creative in this. If this happens, focus on a few significant errors, usually those concerning the topic we are practicing in this lesson. A special case is a mistake that a student raises himself. According to our role, we have to deal with this. But don't address too many errors. You may overburden your students, or they lose sight of the really important point of that particular hand. Consider the skill level of your students when deciding which mistake has to be discussed and how, what solution you give and what not. I have a hand from The Art of Declare Play from Burke and Coldfield, which illustrates this problem. You have to play 4 spades from the south, and you see that you are missing the king of hearts, the queen of diamonds, ace, queen of clubs. You probably go down and you have to do something. Our beginner will start to cache all tricks. His solution, her solution would be to cache all tricks and smile for the 10th trick, and that won't work unless some miracle happens. They will lose the king of hearts, the queen of diamonds, and ace queen in clubs. A more skilled player may say, oh, I know this wonderful technique, it's called a finesse. We could play diamond or a club through east, and maybe the critical honor is with him or her, and then we have our 10th trick. Solution 2, finesse diamond queen. Losing only if the queen is offside. Normally a 50% chance. Another more skilled pupil, so the student may say, yeah, normally this is a 50% chance, but not in this hand. I looked at the bidding, professional technique. The West player said that he owns 12 to 13 points, so therefore it's not a 50-50 chance where the queen of diamonds is. It's more likely that West has the queen of diamonds. So I know this cool play, it's called an end play. I win the trumps, eliminate hearts, and exit with the diamond queen to West. And if I do so, West has to open the clubs for me and give me king of clubs. This solution is better than the last one because it's more probable. It's more probable that East holds the queen of diamonds, but it's possible for West, it's possible for East to hold the queen of diamonds. In this case, our finesse would have worked and our end play won't. So the real solution is to play and play West with the ace of clubs. The one card West has to have because East cannot have 4 points anymore. What this example shows that you have different solutions at different level, and you won't bother a beginner with an end play with the ace of clubs. I hope I've been able to show you some interesting ideas and that you can celebrate mistakes from now on, that you appreciate the enormous potential that mistakes can bring to the classroom. May your students gift you abundantly with many creative mistakes. I'm grateful to my students because I think they have significantly improved my playing and teaching as a result. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for a very interesting talk. If you have got any questions, please do put them in the chat. And a very good one's been raised. How do you manage when the same mistake is repeated by the same person rather than the whole class? Because I think you covered that in your talk.
I think you have to try to explain the problem in different ways, but I must admit there are answers to this. It's my job as a teacher to find the correct explanation for the student so he won't make this mistake again. It usually works. You have to be patient with some students, yes, but it usually works.